The pounding on my front door was anything but neighborly. It had that sharp, relentless rhythm bam, 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 pause, bam, bam, bam like a metronome set to pure rage. I groaned, brushing sawdust and what might have been insulation fuzz off my face. Here we go again, I thought. Round 5? 6? I'd lost track. Through the peephole, the fisheye VYEW showed 2 cops, looking as thrilled as if they'd been assigned to guard a dumpster in a storm. And there, looming behind them, was Susan Harper, my neighbor, my personal suburban nightmare, radiating smug fury like a human heat lamp. Even through the oak door, I swore I could smell her lavender perfume laced with the bitter tang of complaint forms. I took a deep breath, slapped on my best. "Who, me?" grin, and swung the door open. "Evening, officers." "Susan," I said, aiming for casual. It probably came out more like a guy caught rigging a moonshine still. I was coated in sawdust, safety goggles perched on my head, and a faint clunk of a dropped wrench echoed from the backyard. Officer Daniels, who I was starting to know by name, a bad sign, let out a sigh that screamed he'd rather be herding goats. "Mr. Carter," he said, the word, another, hanging heavy in his tone. "We've got another noise complaint. Construction this time. It's past 8 p.m. Before I could explain, Susan shoved forward, practically bratting. "It's a war zone back there, Officer Daniels. Saws, hammers, banging till all hours. I heard cursing over the fence." She clutched at her scarf, like my power tools were a personal affront to her knitwear. I glanced at my watch. "Susan, it's 8:15. We were just cleaning up. Dropped a wrench. My bad." I tried to sound calm, reasonable, but inside, I was a pressure cooker. "Got the permit right here," I added, patting my pocket, praying I hadn't left the slightly vague shed permit on the workbench. Officer Lee, Daniel's sharper-eyed partner, raised an eyebrow. "Construction noise tonight, huh? Not the drum sessions?" Of course he remembered. My file at the station probably had its own drawer by now, labeled "Drummer vs. Dragon Lady." I nodded, maybe too eagerly. "Yup, different issue. Progress." Susan wasn't buying it. "It's a monstrosity, officers. He won't say what it is. It's ruining property values. Zoning violations, I'm sure of it." Daniels held up a hand, cutting her off. "Ma'am, if he's got a permit for a shed, and it looks like a shed, and the noise stops now, we can't do much. Zoning's a civil matter." He turned to me. "Keep it between 7 a.m. and 8 p.m., got it?" I nodded. "Crystal clear, officer. Done for the night." The cops gave Susan a look that said, "Please never call us again," and trudged back to their cruiser. Susan lingered, her glare hot enough to melt asphalt. "This isn't over, Jake," she hissed. "I'll find out what you're hiding." She spun and marched back to her pristine lawn, Leah vying a cloud of righteous fury. I shut the door, pressed my forehead against the cool wood, and muttered, "Lady, you have no clue." It all started a month ago, innocent as a summer breeze. Picture a perfect Saturday, sun high, burgers sizzling, cold beers sweating in a cooler, my pals Nick and Sarah chilling on the patio. And, because it's my place, my gleaming 6-piece drum kit was set up by the back door. We weren't even that loud. Sure, the playlist was heavy on 90s alt-rock, cranked to maybe a 9, and I might have gone hard on a drum solo from Pearl Jam's Porch. But it was 4 p.m. on a Saturday. If you can't make noise then, when can you? Enter Susan Harper. She didn't knock, she materialized like a vengeful ghost at the edge of my patio, arms crossed, face tighter than my snare drum. "Jake!" Her voice sliced through Eddie Vedder's growl like a buzzsaw. "Can you turn that racket down? Some of us are trying to enjoy a peaceful day." I froze midriff, sticks hovering. "Hey Susan, sorry. Too much?" I nudged the speaker volume down a notch, aiming for diplomacy. She sniffed, unimpressed. "It's inappropriate for a neighborhood. This isn't a dive bar. And that banging!" She glared at my drums like they'd keyed her car. Nick, never one for tact, snorted. It's music, lady. It's Saturday. Sarah elbowed him, flashing Susan a tight smile. We'll keep it down, promise. Susan wasn't Haviwaying it. There are ordinances, you know. I won't hesitate to call the police. She shot my kit one last death stare and stormed off to her beige bunker. The VYB tanked. The music felt flat. The burgers tasted like cardboard. Nick tried to laugh it off. She's nuts, man. But it stung. Why did she get to police my backyard, my passion? We kept it low. I skipped the solos, but the tension hung like smog. Then, at 7 p.m., as we were wrapping up, red and blue lights flashed through the fence. A patrol car pulled up. Susan stood on her porch, pointing like a general. Officer Daniels, my soon-to-be regular, trudged over. Evening, folks. Noise complaint. He glanced around, hearing our now quiet tunes. Doesn't seem bad now. Were you loud earlier? I admitted. Maybe a bit, but it's Saturday. We turned it down when she asked. He nodded, bored. You're not breaking any laws now. Just be mindful, all right? He tipped his hat and left, clearly annoyed at the wasted trip. The party died. Nick and Sarah bailed early, mumbling excuses. I stood alone, staring at my silenced drums under the porch light, anger and embarrassment duking it out in my chest. Drumming wasn't just a hobby, it was my release, my soul. The idea that I couldn't play in my own yard because Susan said so? It felt like a gut punch. She wants quiet? I muttered, tapping the snare rim. A reckless spark flared. I'll give her quiet. The quietest damn spot in town. I eyed the patchy grass in my backyard, and an idea took root, not just a soundproof room, but a separate, glorious shrine to rhythm and revenge. A drum fortress. The next week, I was a man obsessed, fueled by spite and way too much coffee. My browser history turned into a jungle of acoustic jargon, mass-loaded VYNYL, staggered studs, green glue, STC ratings, flanking paths. I binged YouTube tutorials from intense audio nerds and lurked on forums where soundproofing geeks debated insulation like it was scripture. My kitchen table became a war room of sketches, foam samples, and diagrams that looked like a fallout shelter blueprint. Nick swung by one night, found me buried in acoustic foam swatches, and raised an eyebrow. Dude, what's this? You soundproofing for the apocalypse? I grinned, holding up a heavy black sheet. This is mass-loaded VYNYL. Key to a high STC rating. He blinked. Okay, what's going on? You've been weird since Susan's meltdown. I spilled it. I'm building a soundproof drum space in the backyard. A fortress. Susan won't hear a thing. Nick stared. A drum fortress? Because she complained twice? I corrected. Twice plus cops. It's about freedom, man. Freedom to shred at 3 a.m. if I want, without her calling the cavalry. Nick shook his head, grinning. You're nuts. And this'll cost a fortune. I shrugged. An investment in peace. Susan should thank me. I ignored that my main driver was pure, petty vengeance. Next hurdle, the HOA, Pinewood Estates rulebook, Susan's personal gospel. I dug out the dusty binder I'd used as a monitor stand, flipping through pages of nonsense about mailbox colors and lawn heights. Jackpot. Sheds under 150 square feet were fine, no taller than the house eaves, 5 feet from property lines, harmonious materials. Nothing about soundproofing or banning drum bunkers. See? I showed Nick. Looks like a shed outside, Fort Knox inside. Easy. He smirked. You're a mad genius. Finding a builder was tougher. Standard contractors laughed me off. Buddy, you need a therapist, not a shed, one said when I mentioned drum-level soundproofing. Shed companies were worse. Double walls? Sounds weird. I refined my search according studio builders, acoustic specialists, and struck gold with Gary's Custom Constructs, a slightly sketchy website promising. If it makes noise, we kill it. I called. Gary answered, voice like gravel and enthusiasm. Drums, huh? Got a Susan on your back? 90% of my jobs involve a Susan. Let's build your drum dungeon. Gary rolled up the next day, looking like he toured with Black Sabbath, faded Metallica tee bandana, eyes sparkling with acoustic wisdom. He paced my backyard, nodding. Sacred ground for sonic rebellion. We'll do full room within a room, floating floor, double walls, green gluten skimp on that stuff. I was dizzy. Whatever makes it silent to her. Gary grinned. My kinda client. Concrete pad, neoprene pucks to stop bass VY best traveling through the ground like pissed off moles. Double frames, rock wool, soundproof drywall, MLV. No windows sound leaks. Ventilation? Baffled boxes. Air in, sound trapped. The price tag was brutal 5 times a normal shed, maybe more. I thought of Susan's smug face, my silence party, drumming at midnight worry-free. When can you start? I asked. Soon as the pad cures, Gary said, eyes gleaming. Construction began with Gary's crew, a grizzled bunch who worked like they were staging a rock festival. The foundation wasn't just concrete, it was a ritual, with rubber mats, isolation pucks, and a 6-inch reinforced slab cured like fine wine. My neighbor Tom, who'd fought the HOA over a pergola, wandered over. Workshop? He asked, eyeing the setup. Percussion space. I grinned. He chuckled, GIVYing a knowing thumbs up. Susan missed nothing. Her blinds twitched, her phone snapped photos from her kitchen. She was probably speed dialing the city and the HOA. Once the pad cured, framing went up outside, a plain shed, inside, a double-walled marvel with staggered studs. Gary explained. Sound hits one stud, gets lost in the air gap. Acoustic ninja stuff. Susan's HOA notices piled up. Unapproved design, debris on my lawn, excessive noise. Gary used one to demo MLV, yelling muffled curses through it. She grilled the crew, but Gary deflected with charm. Just a storage shed, ma'am. Extra insulation for climate control. Gonna be real quiet. Materials fueled neighborhood gossip, rolls of MLV, crates of green glue, thick drywall, submarine-like vent baffles. The local Facebook group probably had a Jake's Secret Bunker thread. We couldn't resist a test. Gary and I dragged my snare inside the half-done structure. The air felt dead. Give me a roll, Gary yelled. I cracked a sharp riff. Outside, he grinned. Like a mouse sneezing miles away. We escalated full kit, Metallica blaring. Nothing leaked. Gary yelled Bohemian Rhapsody inside. I heard Zip outside. Susan, sensing something, called the cops again. Daniels and Lee arrived, weary. Testing insulation, I said. Gary chimed in. Protects his gear from VY brat ions. Daniels sighed. No noise now, ma'am. Take it up with the city. Susan sputtered, powerless. The final touch was ventilation, baffled boxes snaking through walls, letting air flow but trapping sound. The exterior got neutral siding, blending with my house. Inside was another world, angled walls with charcoal foam, raised carpeted floor, no windows, LED strips for VYB, a mini fridge for beers. It needed a name. The Vault, I decided, painting a small sign for the door. My Coliseum of Chaos, silent to the world. The grand opening was Saturday, 8:00 p.m. prime complaint time. I and VY Ted, Nick, Sarah, Gary's crew, and in a ballsy move, taped a fancy in VYT to Susan's door. Witnessed the Vault's debut. Experienced silence. Refreshments outside. P.S. You won't hear a thing. I tuned my drums, polished my cymbals, and prepped a 5-minute solo loud, complex, a sonic middle finger. The patio had drinks and snacks. The show was inside. Friends arrived, buzzing. Gary clapped my back. Ready for silent thunder? My heart raced. Susan's porch light flicked on, curtains twitched. Neighbors lurked, drawn by the drama. I addressed the crowd. A month ago, a barbecue died here. A solo was silenced. Tonight, we reclaim rhythm. Welcome to the vault. Cheers erupted. Susan stepped out, phone ready. I gave a thumbs up, entered the vault, and sealed the door. Silence swallowed me. I sat, counted off, and unleashed hell thundering bass, cracking snares, crashing cymbals. Inside, it was a storm. Outside, my friends later said, it was crickets and traffic. Nick muttered, "No way." Sarah laughed, stunned. Gary nodded to an imaginary beat. Susan prowled, pressing her ear to the siding, finding nothing. Her weapon noise complaints was useless. I ended with a massive cymbal crash, waited a minute, then opened the door. No sound escaped, just me, sticks raised like a champ. The crowd roared. "Nothing!" Nick yelled. Gary crowed. "STC 70, baby!" I locked eyes with Susan. Her face was a storm of rage and confusion. "Quiet enough, Susan?" I called, grinning. She snarled, spun, and slammed her door. Victory. Now I drum whenever midnight, 6 a.m., jam sessions with Nick on bass, Sarah singing off-key. Outside, silence. Susan's quick griping about drums, turning her wrath to Tom's sunflowers. An uneasy truce holds, built on my over-engineered shed. Late at night, LEDs glowing, fridge humming, I pause and think, did I drop used car money on a spite box? Yup. And as I count off the next song, sticks ready, knowing Susan's curtains are twitching but she's got nothing, I feel peace. The beat, silent to her, rolls on.